Hello, I'm Jesslaw Lawrence, and today I'm here with Renaldo Lawrence, who happens to be my dad, talking about his book, I Am More Than What You See, which has recently come out as an audiobook.
Hi Jess, it's very nice to be here with you.
Hello, thank you.
All right, thank you.
So, first of all, we're going to start with the title, I Am More Than What You See. What does that phrase mean to you?
Well, you know, it's funny because I had a completely new title, a different title. And I got a call from a friend one day and he said to me, the title that you have is not the title of your book. I was like, excuse me? And so he said, the title of your book is I Am More Than What You See. And I thought, wow. And I think it's very relevant even in today's society and the places that we find ourselves now. I am more than what you see means that when you look at me, there is more to me than meets face value. I think it's very important that everybody understand that they are extremely important. And I am more than what you see to me represents me, but represents the inner me instead of the superficial outer me.
And that can apply to absolutely everyone.
And that can apply to everyone. And I think that's why the title really resonates with me and resonated with a lot of other people, because it can apply to anybody.
So introduce your book to us. What are your key takeaways that you want the readers to really take away with them?
So the book is about 14 chapters, and the book involves my life and things that have actually happened to me. And I believe that each one of us go through the same things every single day or every single period of our lives.
Like a cycle, life cycle.
Like a life cycle. And I think that it just has a different face, and it might have a different connotation at the moment. But I think the human race is exactly what it says, the human race. So what I've done is in the 14 chapters is I've illustrated stories that have affected me that I know would have affected other people. And so therefore I'm trying to make sure that everybody understand that we are one, we're supposed to be one, and this whole universe is about us trying to be together as a collective.
The book consists of lots of life lessons that you've embodied throughout your life. What would you say were the main points of inspiration for those?
Well, I think there are 3 points, 3 main points. I think number 1 is my mom. I think she's always told me that I needed to write a book. And I think she was the inspiration for me in terms of what she's gone through in her life and what she's endured.
And the lessons that she's taught you.
And the lessons that she's taught me, yes. The second was, I think that it was very important that my children understand that anything that they want to do is possible. And I wanted to be an example of that. I wanted them to understand that whatever they wanted to do in their life, if you write down the steps and take it forward, you can have it done. And I can distinctly remember telling you I was going to write a book, and you said to me, yeah, okay. And then one day you said to me, yeah, but Dad, where's the book?
Yeah.
And I remember that, you know, so I think it's now that you've seen that whatever you want to do, it is possible with hard work.
Definitely.
And the final one, I think, is that I want my grandchildren's 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 grandchildren to know that I existed and that I was on this planet. And anybody who is living today, I think you should write your own book, because I think it's important, because I think the things that you go through will help somebody else along the path.
And people don't often realize that they've taken these lessons and they have a story to share, but everyone does have a voice and has important things to say. So.
Everyone has a voice, and I think that the problem with most people is they get so caught up in their life that they don't let that extra voice come out. And I just decided one day that I was going to let that extra voice come out.
Hence the book.
Hence the book.
So knowing your craft is something that you speak about a lot in the book. Why is it so important?
I think it's really important to know your craft, because I think as any individual who's working on any project or in any line of work, it's extremely important that you know what you're doing. But also I think it's very important that as an individual, your reputation is on the line. Your credibility is on the line. So I've always believed that regardless of what I was going to do, from the time I played basketball to now teaching to working with computers, that I always want to be the best in the room. And the best in the room doesn't necessarily mean the most knowledgeable, but it means that for what I do, that I'm extremely good at what I do.
And do you think that's also being sort of the best version of yourself?
That is totally being the best version of yourself. I couldn't have said it any better. Yes, it is. And I think the best version of yourself allows other people to be the best version of themselves, because if they see that you really want to get things done, then they will come to your high standard. And I think that's the key to having and working at your craft, is working at a high standard.
Yeah. Before I get off my pick, it's such a personal chapter for you. Can you talk us through it a little bit?
Sure. Sure. This particular chapter is very important to me because this chapter has a lot to do with my grandfather. And it has a lot to do with me trying to show off to some cousins. And so my cousins were down from New Jersey and New York, and because I lived at my grandparents' house a lot, I decided that I was going to show off. So I decided to jump on this pig's back who just happened to be pregnant. So I was having the time of my life, and then all of a sudden my grandfather walked out. And after telling me off, when everybody had sort of disappeared, he sat me down and he said something to me. He said, one of the things you have to understand is that those pigs and hogs are the food that we use to feed us and to feed the community. And so you have to understand that when you directly do something, it affects everything else. So you have to think about the chain where things affect, how they affect it. So that was extremely important to me, and that story remains with me for the rest of my life, and it will remain with me.
Well, obviously, because it's the topic of your comic.
Yes, it is the topic of the comic, and it's really amazing with the comic book because it brings back memories that people tend to laugh at me a lot about. So boy, get off my pig. And the other wonderful thing about this book is it represents my grandfather, it represents my grandparents, and it represents my mom, and there are stories in here about that.
You say that with opportunities, it's important to take advantage of them when they arise.
Yep.
How can people apply this broad statement to their everyday lives?
Well, I think the first thing is you have to know what you want. Opportunity doesn't come to people who they don't really know what they want. And I think, if you're going to be prepared for any opportunity that's arise, you need to know where you're going and how you're going there. But I think the other thing is you need to understand that you will make mistakes. It is important that you make mistakes. Through making those mistakes, when those opportunities arise, it helps you to see exactly what it entails that you're trying to do.
And it can open up a new perspective
It can open up a totally new perspective. And I think also it's very important, though, in anything that you do, and I'm a big component of this, is to write down your goals and dreams on paper so you can see them. And then write what opportunities you want to present to yourself. And I think you'll be surprised that having written it down, how those opportunities will manifest.
Yep.
And they will come to light.
So at the end of a chapter, you have reflective questions. Is it important for you as the writer that your readers take away something from each chapter?
It is critical that they take away something from each chapter. I think those questions were designed specifically for the chapters that they follow. In each one of those questions, it gives the reader a chance to digest the chapter, to understand exactly what I meant with the chapter, but then take those questions to then flesh out things within their lives that they might want to do for themselves.
Apply it to their own experience.
Apply it to their own experience. But again, I think by going through those questions, you will be surprised at how you might think of something else that you hadn't thought about in order to help your life experience be so much better.
So in chapter 9 of the book, you talk about living with past regrets.
Yes.
What advice would you give to someone who, say, is struggling to get over something from their past?
Well, first of all, I would tell you that all of us have past regrets. All of us have things that we wish we would have done. But what I've learned is that you just have to move on and let those go. But the most important thing to me on the things that I regretted is that I've learned something from them. A lesson. And I think by learning a lesson from them, I can then make sure that I never repeat that again. Or if something come up that's very similar to what I was doing, I am then able to navigate around that and find a different path to what I want to do.
And I suppose that works in teaching and parenting also. If you've lived something, you can pass on some knowledge and advice.
Yes, but it's strange with parenting because your children don't want to listen to you initially. But it's amazing, like with my mom now, having gone through with her at home and now having my own children is amazing. And now I see that I never really listened about a lot of stuff. But I think, it's one of those things where you have to accept what has happened to you, and then you move on and look for a better life or a better time with yourselves.
And I think people sometimes struggle to realize that that is a process that can take a long time, but that's okay. Just working through it, you can get through anything with time and work.
And I will say one other thing about that is stop beating yourself up. Stop beating yourself up. You cannot change the past. It is the future that's important.
And everyone's human.
Stop beating yourself up and move forward.
Yeah. So your audiobook to accompany the book has recently come out. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Did you learn anything new about yourself when recording it?
Yes, I did. I learned that I needed to develop more patience because I wanted the book to be done in a day, and it's impossible to be done in a day. What I also learned is that in everything in life, there's a rhythm. And so when you're recording, what you need to do is you need to sort of follow that rhythm. Never too high, never too low. And I think that's the same analogy with life. As you go through life, you try to maintain a sort of equilibrium of where you're going.
A balance.
Or like a balance. And I think with this book, what it's taught me, with the audio book, what it's taught me, it has taught me that I can do whatever I choose to do. All I have to do is just write it down, take the steps to get it done, and it can happen.
Put in that work.
Put in that work. And that work is important. And as I said, if you can see it and believe it, and there's so many people out there with so many gifts, but they're scared of using their gifts because they don't know how to get started. But I want to tell you, there is something, it's something of a secret, and it's called Google search. If you can use Google search to find out exactly what you want, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, we've got all the tools there just to research and find examples of what people have done. And
that's why I'm so envious of the youth now, because you've got all of that in front of you, but then some of them don't use it.
It can be quite daunting at times, I think, having a mass of information at all times.
Agreed.
And I think you can target that yourself by following your passions and your interests.
And writing it down.
Writing it down.
And writing it down.
You say in the book that a change in attitude can change the world. What do you mean by that?
Well, let me give you a story. So I was in a situation not that long ago, and I was sitting down with my brother, and I was telling him how I felt about different things. And he just said to me, whoa, stop. He said, you got a family, you got a car, you got a job, you can eat whenever you want to, so what's the problem? And I thought, wow. And so what I then had to do, I had to be honest with myself first of all. And then I had to step outside of myself and look inward. And I had to find out that the problem was me. I was the problem. And I was the problem because I had no gratitude for what I had. And I think, that thing of being grateful and that thing of being blessed and thankful for what you got, I think it has a lot to do with who you are as an individual. So I think anybody who's struggling, I think the first thing to do is to look around and find out what you can be grateful for.